It was supposed to be a quiet night, a simple meal, a moment to breathe, a small break from the weight sitting on her chest. But nothing about that night would stay simple. And what Brielle Harper did next, with the last $9 she had, would pull her into a crisis she never asked for and a confrontation that would nearly get her killed the next evening. This is the kind of story people whisper about, the kind people replay in their heads, the kind that ends up in viral faceless YouTube videos, narrated in low tones and clipped sentences. So if you're watching, subscribe and share. It helps the channel tell more stories like this. Now, let's begin. Late one night in rural Arizona, the kind of place where gas stations close early and desert winds carry secrets, Brielle Harper stepped out of the tiny diner on Red Mesa Road. Her paycheck was late. Her savings were gone. Her fridge was empty. That small meal, a burger, fries, and a cup of water, cost $9. It was all she had. As she walked out into the dimly lit parking lot, she saw him, a man sitting alone on the curb, slumped, dazed, burned along his left arm, stood across his jaw, clutching his ribs like something inside was tearing him apart. He looked dangerous. He looked like trouble, but he also looked like he needed help badly. Brielle swallowed. Her instinct screamed, walk away. Her heart said don't. She chose her heart. Hey, are you okay? She asked softly. The man didn't answer, didn't look at her, just stared at the asphalt like the answers were written down there. Brielle looked at the warm meal in her hand, then at him. Here, she said, offering it. I think you need this more than I do. He hesitated, then finally looked up. His eyes softened, just a little, enough to show there was a person under the soot, the pain, the shaking. He took the food, nodded once, didn't say a word. Then he ate, fast, silent, like he hadn't eaten in days. A strange calm passed through her, fear mixed with empathy, and she stepped back. Take care, she whispered. She walked away thinking she'd never see him again. She was wrong. Around 7:20 p.m. the next night, Brielle returned home to find chaos. Her small neighborhood, normally quiet, normally slow, normally filled with kids riding bikes and neighbors watering lawns, now swarmed with fire trucks, ambulances, sheriff units, civilians running everywhere. A house fire raged at the end of the street. Flames tore through the windows. Smoke rolled into the sky like a black storm. Brielle froze. Neighbors shouted. Children cried. Someone screamed for water. She backed up, trying to process everything, until she heard it. Give me the boy. Her head snapped toward the voice. A man charged across the yard holding a crowbar, eyes wild, body stumbling, lungs gasping for air. A woman clutched a terrified child to her chest, backing away as firefighters attempted to intervene. And Brielle's stomach dropped. She recognized the attacker. It was the same man she fed the night before. Only this time he wasn't calm. He wasn't quiet. He wasn't dazed. He was out of his mind. You don't understand, he screamed. The fire is staged. They're coming. I need the boy. I'll save him. The firefighters blocked him. He swung wildly. The crowbar nearly struck an EMT. The woman with the child screamed. Neighbors rushed forward, then backed away. Nobody wanted to be the hero. Nobody wanted to get hit. Brielle felt her breath catch. This couldn't be real. Not him. Not the man who ate silently in a parking lot with the look of a wounded dog. Not a monster. She took a step back as he lunged forward again. Then he stopped. His eyes met hers. Recognition hit his face like a shockwave. And he screamed, You helped me. So help me again. Brielle's body locked. Her muscles froze. Her heartbeat hammered. Her legs threatened to give out. No, 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 she whispered. Firefighters grabbed her, pulling her behind them. Stay back, ma'am. The man fought harder, swung harder, screamed louder. He wasn't seeing the real world. He wasn't seeing danger. He was seeing something else entirely. Something twisted, terrifying, hallucinated. Finally, after a chaotic struggle, officers tackled him, wrestled him to the ground, dragged the crowbar away. He thrashed. He shouted. He begged. He cried. Then he went limp, and the truth came out. The man wasn't a criminal, wasn't violent by nature, wasn't trying to hurt a child at all. He was a firefighter. He'd inhaled toxic smoke and chemicals the night before during a structure fire. The same night, Brielle found him burned and dazed in the parking lot. The chemicals caused disorientation, paranoia, visual hallucinations, severe confusion. The boy he was trying to save, his nephew, who wasn't in danger at all, his mind had twisted the scene into a thread, and he reacted like a man trying to save family from an enemy only he could see. Professionals stepped in and saved him before he hurt himself or anyone else. And Brielle? She was left shaking, breathless, and overwhelmed. She had saved him once with food. This time, firefighters saved him with force. At sunrise, Brielle received a knock on her door. She opened it to find a woman with red eyes and soot-stained clothing, the firefighter's sister. She wrapped her arms around Brielle. "Thank you," she whispered, "for helping him when he had no one, for seeing him when he was invisible, for giving him the only kindness he got that night." Brielle didn't know what to say. Then the sister added something that chilled her. He kept repeating one thing while they treated him. "She saved me. She saved me. She saved me." Brielle felt tears well up. But this was only the beginning. Because what the doctors discovered next, what the investigation uncovered, what Brielle learned about the man she helped, would change everything and put her right back in danger. Subscribe and share to follow along. The morning sun over rural Arizona always looked softer than it felt. Warm, quiet, almost peaceful. But peace wasn't what Brielle Harper felt when she woke up the next day. She hadn't slept. Not really. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, the burned stranger in the parking lot, and then the raging, hallucinating man with the crowbar. Two versions of the same person. Two different nights. Two different dangers. She sat at her kitchen table, hugging a warm mug of coffee she couldn't afford, staring at the cracked laminate surface, trying to process the night before. The firefighter's sister's words kept replaying. He kept repeating one thing. "She saved me. She saved me. She saved me." There was a weight to that, a heaviness, like she accidentally stepped into a story bigger than herself. She didn't know how big yet. This is where the deeper layers start forming. This is where the truth begins to twist. This is where the faceless YouTube voice says, "Subscribe and share. It helps the channel tell more stories like this." And then the video fades into the next scene. It came around 10:43 a.m. 3 knocks. Firm, purposeful, not neighborly. Brielle stiffened. She wasn't expecting anyone. She didn't want anyone. She wasn't ready for more questions. But when she opened the door, a uniformed sheriff's deputy stood there. "Ms. Harper?" "Yes." "Ma'am, we need to talk about what you witnessed last night." Brielle stepped back. Let him inside. Her heart thudded. Her palms went damp. The deputy removed his hat and sat across from her. "You did the right thing," he started, staying back, letting firefighters handle it. They're trained for situations like that. She nodded, but he continued, "There are things you should know and things we need from you." Brielle swallowed. "What things?" He sighed. "The man you encountered, his name is Evan Rourke. 32, firefighter with Station 46. Solid record. No violence. No criminal history. Nothing." Brielle felt a strange relief, but also guilt. Relief that he wasn't some violent criminal. Guilt that she'd been terrified of him. "There's more," the deputy added. He placed a small folder on the table. A medical report. He inhaled something unusual. Something toxic. The lab is still running tests. But what we know for sure is that the chemicals he breathed in weren't from a typical house fire. That sentence hit Brielle like a cold wave. What does that mean?" "It means," the deputy said, lowering his voice, "someone might have been burning more than just a house." Brielle sat back slowly. This wasn't what she expected. "Ms. Harper, did he say anything to you the night before?" She shook her head. He barely spoke. He just ate. Did he seem scared? Confused? Did he say anything strange? He didn't talk at all. The deputy made a note. Then he stood. "Just be cautious, ma'am. This situation, it's evolving. And you were the last person he interacted with before he broke down. That makes you important to the investigation." Brielle's stomach tightened. She didn't want to be important. She wanted to be invisible. But she nodded. "I understand." The deputy tipped his hat. Then he said something that made her blood pressure spike. "And Ms. Harper, if he reaches out to you again, call us immediately." The door closed. Brielle locked it. Twice. By afternoon, the entire subdivision was buzzing. People gathered in clusters near the sidewalks. They weren't whispering about the fire anymore. They were whispering about the firefighter. What he did, what he didn't, what he might have done. Brielle stepped outside to throw out her trash, and every eye tracked her. "Is that her?" someone whispered. "The one he talked to?" No wonder he snapped. Heard he was on something. Heard he was looking for a kid. Heard he thought the fire wasn't real. People always fill in blanks with fear, with rumors, with anything that makes the story juicier. One woman approached her, a middle-aged neighbor who always pruned her rose bushes at sunrise. "You poor thing," she cooed. "I heard he tried to grab you too." "He didn't," Brielle said. "Well, that's not what I heard." "He didn't," Brielle repeated, sharper this time. The woman blinked, pulled back, walked away. This was the part no one talks about. When you're suddenly the witness. Suddenly the person from a story. Suddenly in the narrative whether you want to be or not. Brielle didn't want it, but the story wasn't done with her. Not even close. Around 6:12 p.m., just when the sun dipped behind the desert ridge, the firefighter's sister returned. Her name was Dana Rourke. She looked exhausted, eyes swollen, voice shaky. She held a paper cup of stale machine coffee. "I hope it's okay that I stopped by," Dana said, standing on the porch. "Of course," Brielle said softly. Dana stepped inside this time, sat on the couch, rubbed her temples. "They're keeping Evan overnight for observation," she said. "They think the chemicals he inhaled did more damage than they thought. He keeps drifting in and out of clarity." Brielle sat across from her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Dana shook her head. "No, you don't understand. He keeps asking for you." Brielle's stomach tightened again. Dana continued. "He remembers your face from the diner. He remembers you giving him food. He remembers your voice. And he thinks you're the reason he made it out of that first fire alive." Brielle looked down at her hands. She didn't feel like anyone's hero. Dana leaned forward, tears forming. "He said you pulled him out of a dark place that night. That you were the only calm thing he had. And I know last night was terrifying. God, I'm still shaking, but I needed you to know he's not that man. Not really. He's kind. He's steady. He's the person who runs toward danger when everyone else runs from it." Dana wiped her face. Then her voice changed, dropped, lowered with something heavier than fear. "But the fire he responded to, the one the night you fed him, that fire is under investigation. The chemicals they found, they weren't accidental." Brielle's heartbeat quickened. "What are you saying?" Dana looked her dead in the eyes. "I'm saying someone wanted that building to burn badly. And my brother inhaled something he shouldn't have. Something dangerous. Something illegal." Brielle felt cold. Dana continued. "And now, someone knows he survived." The room fell silent. The meaning hung in the air. Someone might be watching. Someone might be worried Evan could talk. Someone might want to prevent him from remembering anything at all. Then Dana whispered. "And he said something else, something that scared me." "What?" Dana hesitated. "He said, 'They followed me.'" The room chilled. "And then he said your name." At 8:57 p.m., long after Dana left, long after the desert sky turned black, Brielle sat alone on her couch. Lights off, curtains drawn, phone in her hand. She kept replaying Dana's words. "They followed me. Someone burned that building on purpose." "He said your name." Her phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Brielle's breath caught as she opened it. "I remember more. I'm sorry for everything. I need to tell you the truth. Please meet me." Then a second message. "Before they get to me again." The moment she read that line, she stood up, terrified. Not of Evan, but of whoever he meant by they. Before she could reply, a third message came in. "Please, I'm at the place where you found me last night. The diner parking lot." Her heart pounded. Her legs trembled. Her instincts screamed, "Don't go." But something else whispered back. "You saved him once." Now he needed her again. She grabbed her keys, stepped outside, locked her door, and walked toward her car, completely unaware that someone was watching her from across the street. Someone she hadn't noticed. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. And as she drove toward the diner, her taillights faded into the darkness. Subscribe and share, and stay tuned. The road to the diner felt longer at night. Quieter. Heavier. Every stretch of asphalt humming with a tension Brielle couldn't shake. She drove with both hands gripping the wheel. Knuckles white, jaw tight, eyes alert for headlights behind her. Nothing followed, but it felt like something should have. Her mind kept replaying Evan's message. Before they get to me again. Again. That word mattered. That word meant last night wasn't random. That someone, somewhere, already tried something once. She turned into the diner parking lot. The same place she handed him her last warm meal. The same place he sat burned and exhausted. And now, the place he wanted to meet while claiming someone was after him. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a crossroads. And Brielle was stepping into something she never agreed to. Hit subscribe and share for more. The diner was closed. It always closed early on weeknights. Its sign flickered above the dark windows. But the parking lot wasn't empty. At first, Brielle didn't see anything unusual. Then her eyes adjusted. And there, sitting in the exact same spot as before, was Evan Rourke. Hunched. Still. Shaking. She parked slowly. Engine running at first. Just in case. Then she cut it. Stepped out. The desert air felt colder than usual. "Evan," she called softly. He didn't respond. She walked closer, heart thudding, ready to run if she had to. He lifted his head. His face was a combination of exhaustion and panic, barely held together sanity. Haunted eyes. "Thank you for coming," he whispered. "Why are you out here?" Brielle asked, keeping distance. "You're supposed to be in the hospital." "I left. Evan." "I had to," he said, voice trembling. "They wouldn't listen. They kept sedating me. They kept telling me I imagined things. But I didn't." He leaned forward, gripping his knees like the world was spinning. "I remember the fire now." Brielle stiffened. "Someone set it on purpose," he said. "I saw them." That sentence dropped like a weight. "You saw them?" Brielle asked carefully. He nodded, swallowing hard. "I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was part of the smoke. A shadow. A blur. But when the hallucinations faded today, the memory came back." He looked up sharply. They were looking for something. Brielle felt a chill. "Something," she repeated. "Not someone. Something." He closed his eyes, replaying the scene. They tore apart the back room. Open cabinets. Broke walls. Ripped shelves from the structure. And when they found whatever they were looking for, they torched the building. The air seemed to thicken. "Evan," Brielle whispered, "who are they?" He opened his mouth, but froze. His eyes darted past her, toward the road, toward the dark, empty stretch of asphalt. Did you come alone?" he whispered. Brielle turned. Her stomach dropped. Headlights. Far back. Engine idling. A car that hadn't been there a moment earlier. And someone sitting inside, watching them. Before Brielle could react, Evan grabbed her arm. Not harshly, but urgently. "We need to go," he hissed. "What? What?" "They followed me. I told you. They follow me from the fire. And they know I'm remembering things." Brielle felt panic claw up her spine. "Let's go," Evan said again, pulling her toward her car. But before they reached it, the headlights blinked off, and the car door opened. A figure stepped out, not running, not yelling, not charging, just standing, silent, watching. That was worse. Much worse. "Don't look at them," Evan whispered. "Just get in your car." But Brielle was looking. The figure moved slowly, confidently, purposefully, as if they knew Brielle and Evan couldn't outrun whatever was coming. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her car door handle when a stranger spoke. Evan, his name. That alone sent a shock through Brielle. The stranger stepped forward. "We just want to talk." Evan's grip tightened. "No," he said, voice cracking. "No, no, don't listen to them." "Evan," the stranger repeated calmly. "If you leave with her, things get complicated." Brielle whispered. "What do they want?" Evan leaned close. "You heard what they said. Things get complicated." His voice dropped to a whisper only she could hear. "That means they want you gone." Her breath halted. The stranger lifted their hands slightly, showing no weapon, no threat, but their posture said everything. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a warning. "We can resolve this," the stranger said. "Just come with me." Evan shook his head violently. "No." He grabbed Brielle's wrist again. "We're leaving. Now." And that was when the stranger lowered their hands. Their smile faded. Their voice hardened. "Don't make this difficult." That was all Brielle needed. She yanked her car, door open. "Get in," she shouted. Evan jumped into the passenger seat. She slammed her door shut, started the engine. Tires screeched. The stranger sprinted forward. Too late. Brielle's car shot across the lot and onto the road. But the stranger didn't stop. They ran back to their vehicle, and the headlights blasted on behind them. The chase had begun. The desert road stretched ahead in a long, unforgiving line. Empty, dark, surrounded by nothing but dust and cactus. Brielle floored the gas pedal. Evan clutched the dashboard. "They're gaining," he warned. The car behind them closed distance fast. "Who are they?" Brielle demanded. Evan shook his head. "I don't know. I just know they were in the building. I saw them through the smoke. I thought they were firefighters at first, until they started searching instead of rescuing." The headlights behind them flashed. "They're trying to get us to stop," Evan said. Brielle swallowed hard. "Then we don't stop." But the car behind them accelerated harder. And that's when Evan spotted something Brielle didn't. "They're not just following us. They're trying to push us off the road." Brielle's hands tightened on the wheel. "Hold on," she yelled. The stranger's car swerved sharply, clipping the back end of Brielle's car. Her tires skidded. The car lurched sideways. The desert gravel screamed under the wheels. Keep straight, Evan shouted. She fought the skid, muscles burning, and steadied the wheel. The stranger's car backed off, but only for a moment. Then, they rammed Brielle's bumper again. Harder. Her car fishtailed violently. "Stop!" she screamed at no one. Evan grabbed the wheel to help stabilize. The stranger tried one more hit, tried to send them flipping into the desert. But Brielle jerked the wheel and swerved onto a side road, a narrow service path leading toward an old water tower. The stranger overshot the turn. Brielle's car shot into the desert darkness, dust exploding behind them. Evan was shaking. So was Brielle. Neither spoke. Not yet. Brielle slowed only slightly as they cut deeper off-road, hiding behind the water tower steel legs. Headlights passed in the distance as the stranger's car searched for them. They ducked down, silent, still, barely breathing. Only when the car faded into the night did Brielle finally speak. "What was in that building, Evan?" He swallowed. "Hard. I didn't know," he whispered. "That's the problem. I wasn't supposed to know." He leaned back, chest rising and falling. I think the fire was a cover-up. Someone torched the building to destroy something. Evidence, or experiments, or something illegal. But they didn't expect me to make it out conscious." He looked at her, "And they definitely didn't expect you to get involved." Brielle stared at him. "You said they followed you before," she whispered. "You said they tried something once already." He nodded slowly. "That night, when I wandered to the diner, I wasn't just burned. I was running. The truth finally surfaced. Someone was chasing me through the brush behind the building. Someone who didn't want to witness." Brielle felt a cold wave crash through her. "And now," Evan continued, voice breaking, "they know I remember." The desert wind howled around them. The water tower creaked, and Brielle realized something. She wasn't just helping a stranger anymore. She was trapped in the middle of a conspiracy she didn't understand. A conspiracy violent enough to kill. And the people behind it, they weren't stopping. They were hunting. The desert night swallowed every sound. The wind, the dust, the panic. It all blended into one trembling silence as Brielle and Evan crouched behind the water tower, waiting for the stranger's headlights to disappear for good. When the last echo of the engine faded, Brielle finally let her breath slip out. It felt like she'd been holding it for an hour. "Are they gone?" she whispered. Evan leaned forward, scanning the distant road. "I think so," he said softly. "But they'll circle back. They always do." That sentence, "they always do," sent another cold ripple through her. "Why are they after you?" she asked, voice tight. He didn't answer right away. He didn't look at her either. He stared at the dirt, rubbing his hands together, breathing shallowly. "Evan," Brielle pushed. "You need to tell me what's happening." He closed his eyes, and the truth began to unfold. But not the whole truth. Not yet. Just a part he was finally brave enough to speak out loud. "Because," he whispered, "I saw something I wasn't supposed to see, and now they're making sure no one talks." The faceless narrator voice would cut in here. Low, dark, tight. Subscribe and share. This is where the story shifts. Because it does. They couldn't hide behind the water tower forever. When the desert quieted and the night settled again, Brielle turned to Evan. "We can't stay here. We need to move." He nodded, but when he stood, he winced in pain. His burns, his ribs, his body exhausted from toxic fumes and the chase. "Get in," Brielle said firmly. "I'll drive." Evan hesitated. "You sure? You don't have a choice." They climbed back into her car, dusted off, shut the doors quietly. Brielle drove without headlights at first, easing onto the dirt path, navigating by the faint moonlight. Only when they reached the main road did she flick the lights on. No cars behind them, no shadows trailing. For the moment. But that moment wasn't safety, just a breath before the next danger. "Where are we going?" Evan asked. "There's a place," Brielle said. "Not far. A co-worker's old property. He lets me use it sometimes. Nobody knows it's there." That wasn't entirely true, but mostly a tiny off-grid cabin with no neighbors and no cell reception. They needed quiet, cover, time to figure out who was hunting a firefighter and why. It took 35 minutes of tense driving to reach it. The cabin stood at the edge of the desert, small, wooden, half-forgotten. A cracked porch, a single dusty window, the smell of old pine and insulation. But to them, it looked like safety. As soon as Brielle parked, Evan slowly eased himself out of the car, gripping his side. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded, but he wasn't. She unlocked the cabin door. Dust floated in the flashlight beam. The air felt stale, but it was shelter. Evan collapsed into a wooden chair, breathing heavy, eyes closed. Brielle handed him a bottle of water she'd stored earlier. He drank like he hadn't had water in days. When he finally slowed down, she sat across from him. "Evan, I need the full story. Everything. No more pieces. No more half-truths." He wiped his mouth, and this time, he didn't dodge the question. "It didn't hit me all at once." Evan started. The memory came back in flashes today, like pieces of broken glass. Sharp, fast, disconnected. He inhaled shakily. "I was called to the building at 11:42 p.m. Emergency report said electrical fire. Small blaze. Contained." He shook his head. "It wasn't." Brielle leaned forward. "When we got there, smoke was coming from the side windows. Not the electrical area. And the back door, it looked forced. Not burned. Forced. What does that mean?" Brielle asked. "Someone broke in before the fire started." Evan said. "Multiple people." He rubbed his forehead like the memory burned. "I went inside with 2 others. We split up. I took the back hallway. That's when I saw them." "Saw who?" He looked directly at her. 2 people wearing unmarked gear. Dark masks. Gloves. Not firefighters. Not civilians. They were tearing apart the office in the back room. "What were they looking for?" Brielle asked. "I don't know, but they found it." He took a breath. "They put something inside a metal case. Then they poured some kind of accelerant everywhere. Not gasoline. Something stronger. Something illegal." He paused, and that's when one of them saw me. Brielle's stomach dropped. "What did they do?" "They came at me. Fast. Swinging something. I inhaled whatever chemicals were in the air, and my head went foggy. Everything distorted. Next thing I knew, I was stumbling out the back door. Burning. Disoriented. Could barely breathe. And they followed you," Brielle whispered. Evan nodded. "I heard footsteps behind me. Running. Through the brush. But I kept moving. I kept going until I reached the diner. And then I found you," Brielle said. "And then you found me," he echoed softly. The room fell silent. Dust drifted through the flashlight beam. Brielle's heartbeat pulsed in her ears. The story didn't feel like a story anymore. It felt like a trap she'd fallen into without realizing. But one thing still didn't line up. "Evan," she said slowly, "why did they chase you? Why not just leave the scene? Why risk being seen?" He looked away. His jaw tightened. And when he spoke, it wasn't a confession. It was a warning. Because what they took, it wasn't theirs. And whoever they're working for wants it buried. "What did they take?" Brielle asked again. This time, Evan hesitated. Too long. His silence said everything. "You know, don't you?" she pressed. "You remember more than you're saying." He didn't deny it. He just let out a long, defeated breath. And then said, "I think I saw part of the case. It had a symbol, a seal. Something government-related, but not official. Her throat tightened. What kind of seal? A wolf. Brielle froze. A wolf. Not an agency she recognized. Not a company logo. Not local law enforcement. Something else. Something hidden. Something private. They weren't protecting anything, Evan continued. They were stealing it. Stealing it. And erasing anyone who saw. Now her blood ran cold. Evan, if you remember all this, why did they go after me? He exhaled slowly. Because you helped me. Because they know you're connected now. And because if they can't find me, you're the next link. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Overwhelming. Brielle stood. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked. Evan, you dragged me in something that might get me killed. He stood too, slowly, painfully. I tried to walk away last night, he said quietly. I tried to die alone in that parking lot. But you wouldn't let me. His voice softened. And now I can't leave you alone either. The air between them changed. Not warmth. Not affection. Shared danger. Shared fear. Shared fate. Then, a sound outside. Crunch. A footstep. Another. Brielle whipped toward the window. Evan stiffened. The footsteps got closer. Someone was moving around the cabin. Slow. Calculated. Brielle's pulse exploded. Evan grabbed her wrist. Get down, he whispered. She dropped. He crouched beside her. The footsteps stopped at the porch. A shadow passed the window. Then, a quiet tap. On the door. 3 soft knocks. Then a voice. Brielle. Evan, open up. A voice Brielle recognized. A voice that shouldn't have been able to find them. A voice that shouldn't be here at all. Subscribe and share for more. The knocks were soft. Too soft. The kind of knock that didn't ask for permission. The kind that expected obedience. Brielle froze. Evan's breath hitched. He mouthed a single word. Don't. But the voice outside the cabin door spoke again. A familiar voice. Brielle? Evan? It's okay. You can open the door. Every muscle in Brielle's body went rigid. She knew that voice. It wasn't the stranger from the parking lot. Not the sheriff's deputy. Not the neighbor. Not Dana. It was the last person she expected to find in the middle of nowhere. Evan whispered harshly. Who is that? Before she could answer, a shadow moved behind the frosted window, and a voice cut through the silence again. Brielle, please. Open the door. Her heart nearly stopped. It was her manager from work, Lance Porter, standing on her hidden property, in the middle of the night, calling her name. She worked with him every day at the printing warehouse. Quiet man, kept to himself. A little odd, a little watchful. But this made no sense. How'd he find us? Evan whispered. That's my boss, Brielle breathed. Your boss, Evan hissed. At your co-worker's private cabin? In the desert? At midnight, the realization hit Brielle so hard her lungs emptied. This wasn't coincidence. Lance shouldn't even know this place existed. Unless he had followed her before. Tracked her. Watched her leave the diner last night. Watched her run from the stranger's car earlier tonight. Unless he wasn't just a manager. Unless he was part of it. The faceless narrator would lower their voice here. Subscribe and share. The truth is cracking open. Because it was. Brielle. Lance called again, gentle and calm. We need to talk. You weren't home. I was worried. Worried. The word made her stomach twist. Nobody from work ever checked on her. Not once. Not in 2 years. Brielle exchanged a terrified look with Evan. Don't make a sound, Evan whispered. Lance's footsteps paused outside the door, like he was listening for them. Then, the metal doorknob jingled. He was checking if it was locked. Brielle's heart slammed. Evan quietly slid closer to her and mouthed. He shouldn't know this place. She nodded. They stayed low, crouched behind the table. But the door rattled softly again. Then the lock clicked. Not open. Just pressure. Just testing. Lance exhaled loudly on the other side. And then he said something that froze the air. Evan, I know you're in there. Evan's face drained of color. He whispered, barely audible. Run. But neither of them moved. Fear held them hostage. Lance continued. You should have stayed at the hospital. You weren't supposed to remember anything yet. Evan clenched his fists. Brielle's pulse hammered. Lance wasn't talking like a manager. He was talking like the men in the masks. The ones in the building. The ones hunting the witness. And then Lance added, you both made this very complicated. The doorknob stilled. His footsteps moved toward the porch steps. Evan dared to peek through the bottom corner of the window. His breath hitched. What is it? Brielle whispered. Evan swallowed. He's not alone. Brielle crawled beside him and peeked under the curtain. Her throat tightened. Two more figures stood by Lance's truck. Masks. Dark gear. Matching the description Evan gave from the fire. Her vision blurred for a moment. This is bad, Evan whispered. We need to get out the back. Brielle nodded quickly. Okay, grab your things. They didn't have many. A flashlight. A half-empty water bottle. The car keys. She grabbed them fast while Evan limped to the back door. It was old, rusty, hard to open quietly. Evan pressed his ear against it. Silence. He eased the latch upward. Slow. Careful. The metal creaked anyway. Too loud. Brielle flinched. But there was no response outside. Yet, Evan pushed the door an inch. Then another. Then, footsteps thundered across the porch. Straight to the backside. Evan slammed the door shut silently. Footsteps stopped right outside. Breathing. Heavy. Muffled. Brielle covered her mouth. The person on the porch turned the doorknob. Slow. Testing. Like a predator. Evan shook his head at her, mouthing, "Stay still." The doorknob twisted again. Harder. The lock held. A low, frustrated exhale drifted through the door. Then silence. Silence that lasted too long. Until a new sound. Metal. Sharp. Like a tool scraping into the lock. They were trying to break in. Evan backed up, eyes sweeping the cabin. "We can't fight them," he whispered. "We can't outrun them if they surround us." "Then what do we do?" Brielle whispered back. Evan pointed toward the small window near the kitchen. Barely big enough to crawl through. Barely visible from outside. "Through there," he said. "Then into the desert. Lose them in the dark." "But my car." "They know your car." Her throat tightened. He was right. Leaving her car behind felt like cutting away the last piece of safety she had. But the lock snapped. A metallic click. Then another. They were seconds from breaking in. "We go now," Evan whispered fiercely. "Now, Brielle." They crouched low and moved to the kitchen. Evan lifted the window. Dust fell like powder. The cool desert air rushed in. He pushed himself through first, wincing, gritting his teeth as his burned skin scraped the frame. He dropped into the sand outside. "Come on," he hissed. Brielle climbed onto the counter, swung her legs through, halfway out. Then, the cabin door burst open. Wood splintered. Boots stormed inside. Too late to turn back. Evan reached up and grabbed her arm. "Jump!" She pushed off the frame, landed in the dirt beside him. And they ran, not toward the road, not toward her car, not toward any place that made sense. They ran into the desert, into the blackness, the cold, the emptiness, the only direction that wasn't blocked by masked men. Behind them, a shout. "There!" They went out the window. Footsteps pounded. Flashlights snapped on, beams slashing through the darkness. Evan grabbed Brielle's hand. "Don't stop," he warned. "I'm not," she breathed. They kept running, sand slipping under their shoes, cactus scraping their legs, breath burning in their lungs. Flashlights closed in. Shadows spread across the desert floor. They were being hunted. Again, subscribe and share for more. The desert didn't care who lived. The desert didn't care who died. It swallowed sound. It swallowed light. And now, it swallowed Brielle and Evan as they ran across the barren landscape with masked pursuers on their heels. "Left!" Evan shouted, pulling her hand. They veered between rocky outcrops. Boots thunder behind them. Flashlights cut through the darkness like white knives. "They're spreading out." Brielle gasped. "They're trying to corner us." Evan panted. "We have to get higher, somewhere they can't surround us." Ahead, the land sloped upward toward a jagged ridge. Dangerous. Steep, but their only chance. They scrambled upward. Loose gravel slid under their shoes. Cactus spines caught their clothes. Behind them, voices. "There! Up the ridge! Don't let them reach the top." Brielle's heart slammed like a drum inside her chest. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt like concrete. But she didn't stop. Not tonight. Not after everything she'd been dragged into. They reached the top. Barely. The wind cut across the high rock ledge, whipping Brielle's hair. The world below was a sea of black. Evan collapsed to his knees, gripping his side. "You okay?" Brielle asked. "No," he said truthfully, "but keep moving." Below them, flashlights swarmed at the base of the ridge. They were climbing. Fast. "We need another way down," Brielle whispered. "There isn't one," Evan said. "But I remember something." She turned toward him. "What?" "The seal," Evan said, breathing hard. "The wolf." I didn't remember what it meant at first, but something clicked earlier. It wasn't a wolf. Brielle frowned. What was it then? A coyote. A chill ran through her. Like the government task force? Not government, he said. Private. Contracted by government agencies, but not part of them. Security for hire. Black operations. Off-the-books recovery teams. Brielle swallowed hard. They steal things. They burn evidence. They clean up. They erase witnesses. And then a voice echoed from below. "Evan, Brielle, don't run." It was Lance. Evan's face hardened. "Keep going," he whispered. Flashlights drew closer. Boots approached. Lance climbed first, faster than the masked man behind him. He looked nothing like Brielle's warehouse manager now. No work uniform. No clipboard. No awkward friendliness. Just cold determination. "Stop running," he yelled. "You're only making this worse." Brielle backed away. Evan stepped in front of her. She whispered, "How long has he been watching me?" Evan didn't answer, but Lance did. "Since the diner," he said, climbing higher. "You weren't supposed to get involved, Brielle, but you did. You talked to him. You fed him. You made him calm down long enough to remember things." He reached the top of the ridge, stepped onto the ledge. Hands raised, not in surrender, but in warning. "Just walk toward me," Lance said. "No one gets hurt." Brielle's voice cracked. "You try to break into my house." Lance nodded calmly. "We needed to know what he told you." "He told me everything," Brielle shouted. "About the fire, the case, the men in the masks, everything." Lance's eyes narrowed. "That's unfortunate." Behind him, the masked men reached the ledge. One lifted a radio. "Target located. Proceeding." Evan's voice trembled with fury. "What was in that building? What did you steal?" Lance exhaled sharply. "That isn't your concern anymore." "It is now," Brielle snapped. Lance pointed at Evan. He saw something he shouldn't have. Something that belonged to our employer. Something that needed to be moved quietly. He wasn't supposed to arrive that early. "And the fire?" Brielle demanded. Lance gave a slight shrug. "A necessary smokescreen. We didn't expect you, Evan. We didn't expect you to be the one who inhaled the chemicals. And we certainly didn't expect you to run." Evan clenched his jaw. "You tried to kill me." "No," Lance corrected. "We tried to contain the situation. But you kept running. You made choices that forced us to escalate." He turned his eyes to Brielle. "And you brought her into it. Leave her out of this." Evan snapped. Lance scoffed. "She's involved now. She knows too much." Brielle's stomach dropped. "Don't say it like that," she whispered. Don't talk like you're choosing whether we live." Lance stepped closer. "I am choosing." The wind howled. The desert below felt bottomless. Then, something shifted behind Lance. A soft hum. Faint. Electronic. Evan heard it first. He grabbed Brielle's arm. "Down," he whispered. They ducked just as a blinding spotlight exploded across the ridge. A helicopter burst over the horizon. Floodlights blasting the entire ledge. Lance spun. The masked men stumbled. The roar cut through the black sky. "AZ Fire Rescue." A voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Step away from the ridge." Evan's eyes widened. "That's my department." But Lance cursed under his breath. "Not now," he growled. "Not now." The masked men panicked. They weren't expecting interference. They weren't ready for witnesses. The helicopter lowered, dust swirling, spotlight locking on Lance and the men behind him. "Drop your weapons," the loudspeaker commanded. The men reached for their belts. Not guns, not knives, small black cylinders. Smoke grenades. Evan gasped. "They're going to blind the helicopter." Lance threw a grenade. Evan lunged, grabbed Brielle, and pulled her toward the ground as white smoke erupted, blinding, burning, disorienting. Screams, rotor blades, shouting, chaos. Brielle coughed violently, vision blurring. Evan held her tightly as the smoke spread. When the wind finally cleared, The ridge was empty. Lance, the masked men, gone, vanished into the desert. But the helicopter landed. Firefighters rushed forward. Authorities arrived. Sheriff's units swarmed. Hands pulled Brielle upright. Another set helped Devin. They were safe. Finally safe. For the first time since the diner. Hours later, inside the sheriff's station, Brielle sat beside Evan on a bench. His sister Dana burst through the hallway and threw her arms around him. "You're alive," she cried. "You're finally safe." Evan held her tight, and then he turned to Brielle. "You saved me," he whispered. She shook her head softly. "You saved me too." Reporters would swarm the story. Investigators would hunt the men. The private organization behind the fire would vanish like smoke. But the truth would live in two people who survived the night. A firefighter who saw too much. A woman who gave her last $9 to a stranger. And a single act of kindness in a quiet diner parking lot that saved both their lives. Subscribe and share. Stories like this need to be heard.